Reef DVM's coming at you with the barn wash stall area installed. This wash stall kind of serves multiple purposes. I want an area where I can obviously wash the animals, but I also want an area where I can clean up equipment sometimes. And the corner of our shop is going to be the location. Got plywood, supplies, sawhorses, saw. So I'm going to finish out this wall in the back corner. I'm going to caulk it down on the floor with some PL 3-Tex Premium. Try and get a good water seal there. And then I'm going to come over the top and I'm going to put a type of plastic material that's really not FRP. It's more like non-fiberglass plastic, and it's non-flammable. So here I am framing it out. I framed it out 16 inches on center so I could pass code. As you can see, the water is up, and now the water is not up. I'm in the process of taking down the electrical, putting up the plywood, and taking out the plumbing. Here in this shot, I've got it all taken apart. There's no electrical, there's no plumbing on the wall anymore. And I'm putting a base coat on that's a waterproof primer. Took me a little bit of time to get this on, and I did call the manufacturer on the glue, which was Parkland adhesive, which is meant for the panel, made by them, and they recommended this. So again, we treated all the plywood to make it basically waterproof, which is good with a dry lock primer. And then once we got that done, we resanded the wall and then redid the primer one more time. I wanted this to really stick. So here it is after we've primed the walls, kind of cleaned up the floor and made it ready for the panels. Panels come with these little pieces of trim. I found those to be a little bit annoying, but you certainly can work with them. You've got to line them up and you've got to mark how far in they're supposed to go before you put up the panel. It's just much easier that way. We're working with 4 by 10 foot sheets of this, and again, it's a type of non-fiberglass plastic panel, and it's very flexible, very easy. Has a real diamond grit finish to it. So it seems extremely durable. I think each panel costs maybe like $15. It's made by Parkland. The only thing that I didn't like about these PlasTEX NRP panels is that at one point it says to use an 1/8 of an inch trowel with like a 1/2 inch space. At other points it says to use the 3/16 trowel with 1/8 inch deep V's in them. Very confusing. So I eventually had to put the adhesive on the wall, which is made for the panel, and I decided that I would go by what's on the pail of adhesive. Because even after calling the company, I found out there's many different trowels they use. So when you read that the actual PlasTEX panel adhesive container, which I can try to show you here the best I can, it basically says you can use an 1/8 of an inch deep trowel with a V notch. So I took this Parkland panel adhesive, and it's really not liquidy, folks. It's a no VOC green component that's really more like a gelatin that you just got to work to smear on the walls. Definitely not my most favorite part. Then I basically picked up the panels and I attached them to the wall. I kept them about an 1/8 of an inch away from each other, including the floor. I used pieces of cardboard to help me with that, and this stuff it's really stuck to the wall. It's about the best way I can describe it. Then I used a big laminate roller that we use for wallpaper, and I rollered it on the wall. To keep things kind of going smooth, I pre-cut the trim pieces, and again I pre-marked with a little pencil how far they're supposed to go onto each panel, so that when I put the next panel, as I push them over, I can push them back and keep them well lined. One thing I can tell you is this glue has a setup time of about 45 minutes, and they tell you to wait for it to go from a white to a clear look before you apply the panel. Well, that's fine, folks, but at that point when you apply the panel, you can't move it. So I'd recommend putting the panel on at about 35 minutes just before it turns white, or from white to clear, so that you have a little bit of time to move the panel if you need to move the panel. As far as this product goes, this adhesive, you can use other adhesives on this type of material, but I wanted to go with the manufacturer specific one because, number one, it could be put over dry lock water-based primer, paint, and it also has a really good freeze thaw cycle ability. this barn at times may freeze, and I don't want these panels to come off. So it was the choice I went with. So again, these are the NRP panels. Basically, they're like a fiberglass reinforced panel, but without the fiberglass. They're fire resistant, they're plastic and flexible, and they're glued on with Parkland adhesive. I believe the actual panel name is called PlasTEX by Parkland, and then the Parkland adhesive. We went through about 2.5 gallons of this product for 6 panels. Basically, though, we have 7, so I had to have a second 2.5 gallon bucket of it. The trim pieces here I'm showing you, I just wanted to show you we did silicone caulk those, so that when we put them on, they're a waterproof seal there too. This is not quite the finished shot. I'll show you that in a second, but this is after we got done gluing. And then, of course, we let this sit in a 70-degree weather for a couple days and set up. It was a fun project. I'm glad we did it. It looks nice at this point. I've got some nice tie rings tied into the studs there. I've got the faucets for the hot and cold back on it. And, of course, I've got the waterproof electric system on it. So at this point, I'm kind of turning my attention to the stalls. I'll show a follow-up video on that. Just got to pass a couple inspections here locally, and then we'll put that video out for you when we get those stalls installed. Thank you, folks, for watching.